Welcome everyone. I am Dana Chin. I'm a lecturer here at USC Annenberg. I'm also director of this project called the Media Impact Project. So, unlike Adobe, I don't have elaborate swag, but Post-its, that's something, right? We don't have as much money as Adobe. But we are funded by a number of foundations, including the Gates Foundation, who really want to understand the impact of media. And what does that mean? That means that we've moved from going and just sort of like creating content and shoving it out to everybody to actually really thinking about how does media, how does content, how does actually exposure to a piece of media actually change people? What impact does it have on people, the audience kind of thing. So when we talk about change can be a change in awareness, a change in perception, in knowledge, in behavior, but media has impact. And yes, it can be measured. So this little workshop here, an hour and a half, is more skills-based, but I do want to emphasize that this whole area of measuring impact in view as you're going through your communications careers and your classes, always think about the audience. Yes, we're producing good journalism, we're producing good communication strategies, but it's all for people. Let's just remember people, not machines, but people. So that is the theme. People, not machines. Audience, it's not all about us kind of thing. So with that, let's get started. Oh, there you go. What is a metric? A metric is pretty simple. It's actually just a count of how many things happened. Of course, we have to define what those things are, but metrics is just a fancy word for saying we're going to count something that happened many times, and we're going to analyze those counts, and we're going to calculate things and do whatever, but really what it all comes down to is counting. So we just have to determine what's important to count, why count it, because as we know, we can count anything. I can count the number of students in this room. How many do we have? 50?
About
50, right? That's a simple count of something. And so one question would be, is this workshop successful? We've got 50 students. We've got some, there was 100 people turned away. Is that success? Can Courtney and I go ahead and say, yes, we are successful right now, right here?
It also depends on how much we learn from the class.
Yes, yeah, exactly. So just the fact that you showed up should not be my measure of success. Just because you show up for class, just because you register for a class, does not mean that we as professors actually say that, yes, we are successful in teaching you. I think we've got to actually wait to the end of the semester to get your student evaluations to see whether or not we are successful. So when we say we count something, we have to count things that actually have meaning. And we have to be able to show what are we actually going for in order to determine what we count. So we can count all kinds of things, but what really do we need to focus on? So on websites, what do we count? Essentially, we can count everything, right? Anything as you are typing here, type, click, or touch. On your phone, on your device, as long as you are touching that keyboard and you're sending a command to the server to send something back, we are counting that. We are not counting anything that's going on your head yet. Right. I mean, Google Glass maybe is coming close to that. Better watch it when you go to the doctor, see what they inject you with. Maybe they're injecting you with that little type chip that's going to capture your thoughts. But in the meantime, all we have essentially is your interaction with your device. We can capture all of that, and that's incredibly powerful. And we've seen that in many, many industries, but nowhere has it really had an impact as far as media. Really being able for the first time to understand not whether or not someone just showed up to read or to watch a TV program, but actually to say what article and how many times did you come back. So we actually have far more accurate measurement for this, and so we really have all these metrics that are really important to really understand whether or not our media, the content we are producing, is really making a difference in people's lives. So who's doing all this counting? How are we even doing this? There are incredible numbers of different vendors that count this. Maybe some of you have been exposed to in your internships or your jobs. Does anyone have exposure to Go Analytics here? Work with it? No? Yes, a few? Did you use it on your job or internship? Or?
At a job previously.
Yeah. Yes, no, like it? Overwhelming?
I did like it because we ran newsletters with backlinks to the website, the blog, what was successful,
Right.
how much traffic it was generating back to the site, and also like with the social media, like how many click-through, how
Right.
many links were being clicked on, and then what the click-through rates were.
Right, I mean, everything,
Mhm.
right? It was just like, whoa, kind of thing. So anyone ever been exposed to Omniture or Adobe Analytics? That's a good thing. They do the same things, Web Analytics and Adobe Analytics, it's just that it's just a different thing. And the terminology used in all of these vendors are the same. Google Analytics uses sessions and users. Adobe Analytics uses business visitors. We've got Chartbeat, which focuses and specializes in real-time measurements. We've got Parsley, that's focused on newsrooms. WebTrends was one of the original web analytics vendors, and they're still around, and a lot of people are still using them. Mixpanel is a vendor to measure mobile apps. I think so. There's no one universal way of measuring web audience. Every organization has to essentially pick which one, and actually you can have all these vendors at a time, kind of thing. And so that's what a lot of organizations do, because it's like, oh, how do we understand our audience? And everyone thinks it's all about the tool. So they buy all these tools, and then they have all this data, and then what do they do with it, kind of thing. So the tool in itself is not going to help you understand your audience. It's really the act of analytics, the actual really using the data, gathering the data, understanding the data, to really be able to apply it and really to be able to understand those things. So there are all these types of vendors. We're focusing on this workshop on just Google Analytics because, for one, it's free. Why is it free? Why is anything at Google free, right? There's a business reasons for that. They're gathering all this data. But the reason why Google Analytics, Google makes Google Analytics available for free is because they really do, in their business model, think that everyone should understand their websites much better than they do. So they want to be sure that everybody understands it better so that they can really serve audiences better. Why? Now, why would you think Google really wants to make sure that everybody has really good websites? Any thoughts about Big Bad Google? Yeah.
Because it makes it easier for them to target their search.
Yes. And what does Google do when you search something?
Ads.
Right. So if you have efficient websites, if you are attracting audiences, guess whose business gets better?
Google.
Yeah. So, so it's all, we're all in this, to attract audiences. But that's why Google has invested all this money into really providing a very effective tool to measure the web analytics. And so there's the free version of Web Analytics, and then there's the paid version of Web Analytics, and you get more kind of thing, but everybody can use the free version, and it's incredibly compatible, just even, the free version. So, we always want to have a focus. There's no such thing as sort of diving into analytics and saying, this is what it means. So, Professor Trope, anybody have Professor Trope in a class? Yes? Yeah, right. So, I'm sure she has told you about the Critical Media Project in spades, right? So, Professor Trope, like many of us who have projects, we are always trying to justify ourselves. We're always trying to get funding from somebody, including the dean. And the question is, sort of, what is success for the Critical Media Project? That's the answer that's the question that we need to answer with Web Analytics data. So we got to break that question down, I think. So if you want to go on, you have your laptops open, go to Critical Media Project and start. If you haven't already, start looking at it, start thinking about it. It's like, what is this thing, kind of thing? Because success, there is no sort of standardized success for the web. Each organization, each project has to really think through what is success. And then the secondary question then is, what do you measure? So we don't start with the metrics. We don't say, oh, we need to count this, we need to count that. We need to start out with what really is success for the site in itself, what really constitutes the site. So this is a real life question, I think, so let's see if we can help her out. So this is the key question. Success on the web. It's not based on just counting the number of people who show up. As always, quality of audience is better than quantity. It's essential. So the question can be phrased, if 1 billion people came to the Critical Media Project site, well, for one, the Annenberg server would crash, right? I mean, 1 billion is a lot, kind of thing. But besides that, if 1 billion people came, but none of them are, and this is the blank we have to fill in, but if none of them are a certain type of person, then the site successful. In other words, just because hordes of people show up your site does not mean that that's good. Think viral video. All of those, I'm dating myself. Do anyone remember the Evian baby commercial where they had a cute little baby, or actually any of those cute little ads, the viral ads that go crazy, Super Bowl ads, millions and millions and millions and millions of people, but there's actually been studies on this, does it actually translate into sales? Most of the time it does not, I think. So it's all about who really is your target audience, and those are the people that you need. If you do not get the right people to your site, then it doesn't matter how many numbers you have. The flat number does not matter at all. So the first thing to get firmly in your head is that who truly is the primary target audience for the site. And often, if a site is a good site, then you should be able to know it instantly. If you ever go to a site and you're like, who is this site for? That is a site that is not well designed, is not geared toward that audience. I think if you go to a site and you're thinking, I don't like this, well, maybe that site wasn't for you. I go to plenty of sites where it's clearly for you and not for me, kind of thing, given everything said kind of thing. So a site should be instantly recognizable to people of that target audience. And the metrics should reflect that as well. So actually, this isn't bad. In fact, it's pretty explicit. So not only is the Critical Middle Project explicitly for educators, but then you break it down, and it's educators, high school teachers. So, anyone here a high school teacher? No. So guess what? None of us are in the target audience. So while we can be the analysts of this site, whether or not we like this site, whether or not we think the design is good or bad or what have you, whether or not we think the content is relevant to us, it doesn't matter. It absolutely does not matter. Because what matters is the success of the site is based on high school educators. And oh look, here's another slice. Not just high school educators, but high school educators in the United States. So a good site should have in the flag, in the About Us section, exactly who the site is for. It's the number one thing, and you should be explicit about it, because if you don't know who your site is for, then frankly you do not know what to measure. You do not know what is success. If you haven't really clearly defined it, it's starting first out with the audience. Because remember, what we're measuring is our impact on the audience that's going to make our site successful. So the way that Professor Trope is actually pitching this is just like, why should we fund you, Professor Trope? And she would say, well, because we are helping high school educators in the U.S. develop media literacy among their students. That's better than saying, because we have a really good site that everybody likes. That gives something that's like, yes, okay, now I know exactly what I'm funding. I'm funding increased media literacy among high school students in the U.S. Very specific target, very specific outcome that's needed, and now we've got something to really get our hands around when we say, what in the world do we measure? So, metrics, finally, kind of thing. There are 3 basic metrics. Everything in web analytics is based on these 3 metrics. Users have 1 or more sessions on a site, and they generate 1 or more page views. That's it. We can all go home now. Not really, kind of thing. But there's an incredible lot of information that we can get from these 3 metrics. So we can count anything. So we can count users, we can count sessions, we can count page views. But what do each of these counts really mean? What are these counts actually counting? That's the first thing when you're dealing with metrics and analytics is, what is the metric? And is it even worth counting? I mean, we can count everything, right? But what is actually worth counting? So let's take users. Misused metric number 1. Sign of success for many people at parties and what have you. Oh, how many unique users do you have? Kind of thing. It's like, oh, well, I've got 1.5, I've got whatever, just sort of like, remember, people, not users. Users are not people. Users, as measured by a server, one machine to another. A user, as counted in Google Analytics, is a device and a browser or an app. So if you've got Safari and you've got Chrome on your one Mac, you are 2 unique users. If you are using one of the publicly available computers out in the digital lounge, if there are 50 people who go to that one computer, that is 1 unique user. So these users are not people. So this metric is incredibly flawed because the number will either be overcounted, because I think the prevailing number among Annenberg students is each Annenberg student has like 5 devices or browsers. You know you have at least 2. And you know most people use more than one browser, and then you have apps and things like that. So you can all do your own counts, that kind of thing. In my web analytics class on Tuesday, there are 13 students in the class. Among us, among browsers and apps, in fact, we counted 60 unique users. So talk about overestimating. It could be underestimating. If your site is targeting, say, a high school, where you have one computer, say, and all these students are using it, especially like in a low-income high school, you are undercounting your audience. And guess what? You will never know whether you are undercounting or overcounting. It's an extremely unstable metric. It is not really counting what is really going on. Yeah?
What about logins? So, for instance, yes, they may track the IP address of the device, but what if there's logins for each account, so then they can track that?
Yes. Yeah, you used a key word here. If. If. You will log in if you're going to buy something. You will log in if you have an account someplace where it's going to give you something for the benefit of logging in. Most sites do not have that. And even if they do, people still, unless you are keeping content behind something, behind that login, people will not log in. And even if you're only counting login, you're missing out on all that opportunity of people who are coming out and trying out your site. And those are the people, frankly, you want to measure the most. So yes, in a perfect world, we know everybody. They all log in faithfully every time you go to the site, and then we know everything about you, and then Amazon's getting close, right? I mean, I don't know how they're doing it. I would love to be an intern in their analytics department, because that would be so fun. Okay, this is analytics stuff. All right. So, so users, everybody uses it. Why? Because it makes them feel that, yeah, we're measuring people. But if you really want to know, you can't use it. So this is the devices, cookies, one device kind of thing, and then the opposite kind of thing. One device, 14 people, one user. So we've got that. We've got 1 billion high school teachers. The next question is, okay, so they came, but now the next question is, what else means success? Well, if you have all these teachers, even if you had 1 billion of U.S. high school teachers, I don't even know if there's 1 billion high school teachers in the U.S. Somebody has that number, right? Well, let's say there is 1 billion, and let's say they all came to the site, but they only came once. That's not success. Because remember, the outcome that we want is increased media literacy among high school students. And surely you have to come to the Critical Media Project site more than once in order to be able to use the material to use that. So the sign of success for CMP is not just that they came, and this is another reason why, the conceptual reason why users is not the right number. Because frankly, it just doesn't matter if you showed up. What matters is whether or not you came back over and over and over again. So that's what you need to count. Not users, but you need to count how many times they came back. And if they only came once, the site is not successful. So now you have a very clear measure of what's not successful, if they came once. And then you have to set goals for what is success. So how many times do you think, based on what you have on your site and how you're asking people to use the site, how many times do you think that it's going to achieve your outcome to that? And that's going to be different for each organization. So that's why there's never any standardized measure of success. So whenever you hear someone bragging about any number, 1.5 million, 10,000 or whatever, it's just a big so what, unless you really know what their target audience is and what those outcomes are and what the goals are. And it's going to be different for every single project. So it's not the fact that you showed up, but we also now need to really understand how many times. And so that's why everything in Google Analytics, all the power of Google Analytics is in analyzing sessions. How many sessions came from how many devices? Because whenever you have an increase in sessions, that means it's always good. There's no ambiguity about how many people came how many times people came. And so if you have an increase in sessions, that means either the same small group of people are coming more, or you truly are getting more devices coming to your site. Oh, and of course, the best case is that you have more devices and you have more people coming more, I think. And then conversely, if it goes down, something's going wrong. Either fewer people are coming, or the people who were coming aren't coming as much. Either way, go fix it. No ambiguity, it's very clear indicator and call to action to you as an analyst to say, we've got to go fix this, I think. So we're focusing on sessions, and then of course we focus on page views, what they're actually doing, in that session. So one of the things that we're doing, so not only do they want to come a lot, but let's say high school teachers coming once a week, but they're leaving right away. Someone told them, required them to go to the critical meeting of a project every single week kind of thing. They're required to do that. Let's go do it with group kind of thing. And they're looking at it and they're like, this is crap kind of thing. So guess what? We not only now are setting success, but the bar keeps getting higher, right? First it was just, let's get teachers to get there. Let's just get them to come once a week. But it's like, no. We want them to stay. Oh, gee. Yeah, that's right. Again, not good enough to show up. We want them in the site. And there's all kinds of things under your control to help them do that. There's design, navigation, content, all these things under your control. So how do we know, what to change and whether or not it had effect? That's where the metrics come in. So there's a very important metric about whether or not people leave right away after they come.
Is that the same as the bounce rate?
Yes, thank you for the transition. Yes. Bounce rate kind of thing. So remember, everything's on sessions. So a bounce is a session with one page view. So the bounce rate is a simple calculation of the number of bounces over the total number of sessions. And Avinash Kaushik, who is the Google Analytics guru of all gurus kind of thing, and he's on the Media Impact Project Advisory Board, and he has 2 books. I highly suggest if you're really into this, you've got to read his 2 books as well as his blog, Occam's Razor. His description of bounce rate is, I came, I saw, I puked. Because unless you're CNN, unless you specifically have designed your page for people to come in and out, which CNN does for its breaking news, but certainly the Critical Media Project, no. The reaction should be not, I came, I saw, I puked for the Critical Media Project. The reaction should be, I came, I saw something that was really important to me in my work as a U.S. high school teacher, and I clicked on it. Now remember, a bounce is only a session with one page view. It does not take a whole lot to not be a bounce. Just one lousy click. One. So the bar is really, really, really low to not be a bounce. So I'm not asking much to say, please do not bounce. There should be something above the scroll line, in that navigation, in that content, in that image, that should be encouraging the target audience to take one lousy click. This should be easy. But actually it's not. So some people think that actually bounce rate is the most important metric. Because if you can't even get them to take one lousy click, then how in the world are you going to expect them to do all these other wonderful things, look at all this other wonderful content on your site? So this is the first sign that you even have a chance, to do that. So, the questions. How many sessions did CMP have? How many of them were from users in the US? No, unfortunately, we cannot get right now in this version of Google Analytics whether or not those users are high school teachers or not, but we can get a little close. We can at least see, whether or not they're from the US or not. Did they stick around? And are they growing? Because again, we want to look at trends, not just sort of one number, because we really want to know what's going on. So we all have a temporary account into Google Analytics, so if you all want to sort of go to google.com analytics and sign in with this login and this password, then we can get our hands dirty with some metrics. And this is the incredible security feature of Google Analytics, in which, yes, you can have as many simultaneous users in Google Analytics on the same account as you want. Why? I don't know, but let's go ahead and exploit that that great security feature of Google Analytics kind of thing. So let's get started in Google Analytics. So everybody got here? Yes? So you can bring your computer. Well, oh, your iPad. Okay, so everybody in? Are you?
I don't know how to get there. Is there a website?
Oh, I'm sorry. It's google.com/analytics.
But sometimes they require you to put in your account-based name.
Yeah, and so the account name is Critical Media Project at gmail.com,
Okay.
and the password is Annenberg Danachin. You go to the screen, and sort of the first question to ask is, so what? Or it's like, what, huh? Where do you even start? So remember, the first question is, how many sessions did the Critical Media Project have? Well, here's a number here, number of sessions, 22,653. But everything around analytics starts out with when. When did you have these 22,653? And so Google Analytics, it defaults to the last month. But, Critical Media Project, this is, I really want to know, what happened? I mean, Professor Trope is applying for a grant to fund this. So what's going on? One number isn't enough. 1 month isn't enough. So the first thing to do when you are into Google Analytics is say, what time period do you want to look at? So we want to look at a time frame over a year, because we really want to see what's going on. So I'm going to put in, and it's really simple, date function of, and let's put in January 4th, 2015, starting on a Sunday. And let's go into last Saturday, which is January 30th, 2016. And you hit apply, and you get this. It's like, what? Well, it's like, what does this mean? And the first thing you think is like, well, look at this. This is by day. So you can get this data, number of sessions by day. You can get it by hour, which is really crazy kind of thing. It's like, wow, what is this kind of thing? Is this really that useful? Is Critical Media Project Amazon? No, kind of thing. So essentially, sessions by hour and sessions by day, it's like too much information for Critical Media Project. We really don't need to know this much detail kind of thing. So I usually like to do by week. Why by week? Because if you're waiting to the end of the month to make a decision about your site, it's too late. So whatever site you are, unless you only change it like once a year kind of thing, then probably by week. Because if you're having that regular, say, Monday morning meeting, what do we do about our site? You can look at the last week's data and do something about it. And if you're taking action on your site, then you can look the following week and say, oh, it did work or didn't work, or show signs of working, or not, whatever. So here, okay, this is a trend that we can really actually get some information from. So we have the total number of sessions over the past year, essentially, 240,586 sessions. We have a user here. We have the number of page views. And look at this bounce rate, 80%. Remember, bounce rate is the number of bounces over the total number of sessions. So that means 80% of the sessions that came to the Critical Media Project site left. Ouch. This is horrible. This is what Professor Trope's got to do something like right now kind of thing to do this kind of thing. This is horrible. Bounce, it's never going to be 0, as you can imagine, but it should be less than 50. And ideally, you know, maybe 40 would be okay kind of thing, but not 80. Yeah.
Clarification question. So
Uh-huh.
for the bounce rate, it means that you just go to the website without clicking anything, without
Right.
scrolling up or down at all, just like staring at the website.
You can scroll.
Okay, that counts.
Yeah.
So no second click.
No second click. No like actual like.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So remember, a click means that you are sending a command to the web server to say, send me a page back. So, yeah, so you can scroll kind of thing. So that's me. Yes, if you have designed your page to have everything on the first page, then okay, fine. But that's where knowing what to measure makes a difference in how you design your site. Because if you put everything on your website on one page, then you're never going to know what your bounce rate is. And you do want to know how many people get turned off because so you can fix it. Because no one ever has the perfect site. There's always something to improve about a website. Yeah.
Is the bounce rate only measuring your homepage, or if someone were to click on a direct link to say an article and consume the entire article and then leave,
Any
does that
page.
still contribute to the bounce rate?
Any page.
Okay.
Yeah, so if you entered in on an article instead of the homepage, that's still a session that landed on the article page and then left without taking another click. So on a lot of news sites, you know, they have, say, a session coming in from Facebook. And then it lands, and what news sites should do is have related content to that story so they can find out more. Or an explainer. Or a share this. Or whatever. But have a call to action to say, if you bother to go from the Facebook story to the site because you're interested in that topic, maybe you're interested in that organization. So that's another reason why on your Facebook page, you're not going for pure volume. You should be posting your Facebook page only unique content that only you have. And if you're looking for people who are going to like other content that you have on your site. Yeah.
What if they clicked an external link, something that you've linked to that goes to another website? Is that, I mean, what triggers the Xing out of it, or?
It has to be on the site. So a click onto another page in the site, in your own site.
Okay, so if I've linked to something on an external site,
It's a bounce.
It's considered a bounce.
Yeah,
okay.
you've left the site. But of course, you should have external links. And I mean, bounce rate's never going to be 0. You should always be looking at your audience. If a click to that external link means something to that audience, then do it, I think. But there should be other things around your site that really gets them there. Yeah.
Does it make a difference if the external link opens up a new tab or takes or physically removes you from that tab?
Yeah, it doesn't matter. You're clicking outside. You know, as long as you're not sending another command to the server to say, give me another page for this site, it's a bounce. I think. So, and there's all kinds of rules when sessions expire and things like that, but you'll have to take my class to really find out all the nitty-gritty of those sessions kind of thing, because it takes some time to explain. But, you don't need to take my class to understand that 80% bounce rate is really bad. I think. Percent news sessions, 84%. What does this mean? It means 84 of the sessions are coming from people who have never been to the site before. The site's been around for, 2-3 years. It's like, isn't anybody returning? Please? It's like, over the last year? No, I think. What else do you notice about this trend? I mean, so you can see this number is sort of like, that's interesting, but really the power is in this trend here. It's like, so what are you guys seeing? It's like, is this really a decrease? So it's like da-da-da-da, and like decrease in July. Yeah.
Well, it seems like it might really be high school teachers. If you look at the drop right before Christmas, that would mean that they're not at work anymore. So it's not just people at home that are going to your site, it's people at work. So it could be high school teachers that actually are visiting.
Right. Well, also, in other words, if you're looking at the trend, you're thinking, oh my gosh, what should I do? What should I fix? Should Professor Trope even worry there's a big dip in December?
She should expect it.
Yeah, exactly. So this is not a cause for alarm. This is not a cause to call up and say, oh my gosh, you've got to fix the drop. another reason why in your organizations and your jobs that if you don't just say there's an increase or a decrease, you have to put it in the context and the time period of your data. So where she should be expecting traffic is exactly where it is. Academic year starts. And so what you're looking also in a trend is what you should be doing but isn't there. So in other words, sometimes there might be is like, was this trend here? It's like, what happened here? We have all these high school students coming back to school, and yet our trend is flat. So always in a trend, you're looking about what's there and what's not there. Another reason why to have a firm grasp on your organization about what's normal for your organization. And that's why, again, the reason why to grind this in, how there is no universal standard of success. It's always going to be based on these external factors that are going to be unique to each project, I think. The internal factors are things, actions that you take. So if Professor Trope had redesigned the Critical Build project in, say, November, and it was a much better site, and what have you, and the traffic didn't go up, then that's a cause for alarm too. So whenever you're looking at a trend, you have to know the organization extremely well. What are the external factors? What are the internal factors? What are the things that are under your control that you're doing something in order to increase the number of sessions? Did it actually work or not? And that's the power of analytics, is actually to take action on whatever metric that you're looking at, kind of thing. So this is all well and good, but remember, we really want to focus in on users in the US. And this is where it's really powerful. If you click on this thing called Add Segment, and you just click on this custom segment that I set called US Sessions. So it was up here, and then you click Apply. Interesting. So not only do you see the number of total sessions, but this is the audience. Sessions from people in the US. So that means that this is the line that should be paid attention to. And the first thing to look at again is, does it follow the trend overall? In most news sites, sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes what's causing the bump are some other type of sessions that they don't care about. But if you were to judge success on the all sessions instead of the sessions line that was really important to you, then you'd be misleading yourself, I think. So this shows us like, so sessions from the US sort of basically follow the same trend. And then you start looking at the other really interesting stuff. All sessions kind of thing. Let's look at the difference between the bounce rate between US and the bounce rate of all sessions. Okay, it's a little bit lower. Little bit. Still bad. 77%. That's a little, so it's okay. Okay, so you're working with a 77% bounce rate instead of an 8% bounce rate. So be kind to yourself and say, this is the one that I look at, not the bigger one, kind of thing. Let's look at the pages per session. Okay, this is a little bit more encouraging. Sessions from US had a little bit higher pages per session. Now, pages per session is literally taking the number of page views divided by the number of sessions. So this number doesn't move that much. You're not going to see a big move from like 1 to 2 kind of thing. So actually a move from 1.80 to 1.96, that difference is not great, but it is significant. So this means that definitely that US sessions do go to more pages, despite the fact, in other words, the sessions that did not bounce are going to an average of 1.96 pages per session. So already we're seeing that when you target your audience, when you just say this is the audience I want to look at, it's like, okay, maybe I'm not so, the site isn't doing as bad as we thought we did. Well, let's focus in on the real metrics. So let's go a little further. Let's really think about, frankly, US. Let's just look at just US. So let's unclick all sessions. And let's click on US new and US returning. So we've already said our target audience are people from the US. So now we really want to know, all right, of those, then which ones are new versus which ones are returning. We hit apply. And it's like, okay, this is really interesting. This is what I get into. Look at this green line. What is this green line? Oh my gosh. U.S. returning. It's flat all the way through. Oh, this is awful. This is being recorded. And so look, the trend, the peak is not coming from returning. That's really sad. And look at these stats though. Oh my God, this is the gold here. This is the people that you want. They're going to, remember I told you it doesn't it doesn't change that much. U.S. returning are going to an average of 3 pages per session. The bounce rate, much better. 65% for U.S. returning sessions instead of 80. There's your audience. You have a chance to reduce a 65% bounce rate to get around more 45. It's a much harder way to start from 80. And you don't want much of those other sessions anyway, kind of thing. You really want people from the US to come back and not bounce, kind of thing. So this really is the power of analytics because you can segment by all kinds of different ways, kind of thing. I mean, we can, this is what we call a stack segment. It's not only visitors from the US, but it's visitors from the US and new. And then we can segment in other ways people who are returning and go to 3 or more pages. Or people who came in from search from the US who are new, kind of thing. You can, in analytics, what we're doing, we're stacking as much as 8 different types of variables to really understand different types of behavior, on the web, kind of thing. So, so where is the growth coming? The growth is not coming from returning. The growth is coming from new. So the next question then is what do you do to make more of these new become returning? And remember, just like with bounce rate, it doesn't take much to become new versus returning. And this is like ever, right? So returning is someone who just returned in one more time. That's all. One more time. Doesn't take much. So what, to do, I think. So those are the real basics. Let's see, we went from, what time we start? 2:30, right? It's almost 3:30. Yeah. Okay, so we answered the basic questions about these users. Any thoughts? Any other questions that come up to you? Yeah.
When you add segments, does Google Analytics sort of generate it for you? I don't know if you could maybe explain a little bit more about the segment process.
Yeah, the segment process is, Google Analytics does have some things that are already set up. So if you go back to, I'm going to go back and unclick all these sessions. You can, here's a really good one, all sessions versus bounce sessions. So you really want to know sometimes of all the sessions, you don't just want to know the total bounce rate, you want to know the bounce rate from week to week. Because maybe there are some weeks that were more successful than others, I think. So yeah, and in fact you do see this. I mean, in other words, the orange line is the number of bounce sessions. How many sessions had only 1 page view? And there is a narrow gap here. So that means the bounce rate was really high about when the site got started. But then as you see, in its 2nd or 3rd year of operation, the bounce rate is lower. You have lower number of bounce sessions in this academic year than in previous spring year, kind of thing. So I know the site just got started. I forget when it was founded, but so what you would want to do is like, okay, there's a difference here between these 2 time periods. And so you want to really zero in on what worked here and what didn't work there. What was it about your site that caused such a high bounce here, but then what did you add then here? Okay. So to add a segment, so that's what's you can do by using this segmentation feature. If you just want a general idea of sort of some of these other things, that's where you can go into all of these other things that Google has. For example, if you want to look at just in general, then you can go into like geography and go into location. And it doesn't give you the trend, but it does give you the flat out number. And so you can see, oh, okay, so 152,000 sessions from the US, but 20,000 from the UK. So in other words, another question might be, well, US is number 1, but what's number 2, and is it a close number 2 or is it a far number 2? Is it something to worry about? Is there some magic? Is there some is there some other audience that maybe that we didn't know about that the analytics delivered? So we can look at the bounce rates here and compare it by. So everything in Google Analytics will give you the bounce rate, the percent of new sessions, and the pages per session. So whatever you're looking at, you can always have those 3 metrics to really get that first top-line understanding of what's working or what's not, kind of thing. So you can also look at things like the number of mobile users and whether or not they use the desktop, a mobile, or a tablet. And you can set up custom segments so that you can trend it, kind of thing. So when you first go into this, you just see the total number and you get the total percent. So you say, oh, despite what the increase with mobile, Critical Media Project still is getting 71% of their sessions from desktop, which is also sort of a good indicator that maybe it's coming from high school teachers, right? Because, or at least a better chance, kind of thing, because you would not normally see this. And the other sites that I've looked at, the mobile is much, much, much higher, kind of thing, and it's growing, kind of thing. So definitely you want to use this type of metric to decide whether to do an app or whether to do a mobile responsive design for your site. It takes money to do both of those things. And depending on your priorities, if you're not seeing that many mobile users and you're seeing the trend is not raising that high, then maybe you want to spend your money on something else. It's called opportunity costs. Yes, you could, change it, but what else do you need to spend your money on, kind of thing. So it all depends. Again, what questions do you really have? So that's an important question. Is mobile, kind of thing. What's really fun? I know everything's really fun for me in analytics, but what's really fun is all these metrics called visitor acquisition. In other words, before you really understand sort of what's going on your site, you have to get them there. And there's all kinds of actions you can do to market your site. You can do ads, you can do email newsletters, you can do print ads. How are you even getting people to your site? And so you go into acquisition, and if you go into all traffic and channels, you can see, oh, look, organic search, direct, referral, and social. And organic search, 80% of the sessions are coming from search. That's really powerful. That's pretty high, actually, for a site like this. I would have expected the number of sessions from direct, from Professor Trope sending out emails to high school teachers and things like that, typing in. And direct is when someone types in directly. A referral is when the link is on some other site. It's like, oh, go see Critical Media Project, and because you would get this kind of thing. And then social is social. So very few sessions from social, the bulk from organic search. That number usually expect like 50%, not 80%. So this is a good sign people are interested in this topic. And now they're bouncing, yeah.
Is there a way to find out from the organic search what page people are getting dropped on? Is it always the home page? Probably
No. And so this is another really fun part about analytics. If you then click on organic search, then you get the keywords that people are using that actually got them there. Let's see. How can I?
The first one is not provided.
Not provided, and well, there's another tool that you can use. Not provided means that Google is being Google, and they're saying, guess what? If you're signed into a Google account, we are not going to give you the keywords. But there's another tool called Google Webmaster Tools that will give you all the keywords. Why? Because Google Webmaster Tools is used to sell Google Ads. So therefore, they give you the keywords under Google Webmaster Tools, which is free. But in the default version of Google Analytics, they just give you the so even Critical Media Path, they have 8,000 keywords that were used to get into the site. on the news sites that I've been looking at, we're talking about 500, 600,000 keywords. And so we're talking about search engine optimization, but our first thing that we're doing is, we're talking about big data. We're downloading all this data, we're coding the data, we're really understanding the keywords that are bringing in the site. And then what's happening with each type of group of keywords, it's taking a long time because I asked for all of them, kind of thing. So we know the keyword that brought them in, which is really powerful because that's the only clue that we have to what people are thinking when they click on the site. What words, what questions you have. I mean, you all use search engines, I'm sure. No one just puts in a word now, but people are putting full streams, right? You know, how should I teach media literacy, kind of thing. And so what you're looking for when you're analyzing keywords are things like that. It's like, did the terms that I want to be known for showing up in search or not? Sex power, oh, okay, yeah. There is a bunch of stuff about literacy around sexual identity and things like that. So, but that's really interesting. So sex power, okay, 72 visits, but again, you don't look at just the 72 visits. You're combining that keyword with all the other types of keywords. It's hard to scroll here. Yeah, I might have. Maybe we did break Google Analytics by having all of us on the same time, kind of thing. But there are probably other types of keywords that you want to combine those 72 visits with. So you code them. So in other words, if someone, let's say there's another 5 visits that came in through sex, power, politics kind of thing. And that's all the same type of keywords, so you want to categorize it the same thing. Oh, that's right. It's not just 72 that came in through the word sex, power, but it was 10 different terms all related to, you know, sex, power. Yeah.
I'm just a little bit confused because these are all links, and I would think that they're direct, but why are they under organic search as in keywords?
Because you know how you use Chrome? You just
just search it on
right,
Google.
right, yeah, yeah. So this is why the default standard GA doesn't give you that much information. If you go into Google Webmaster Tools, and it differs for every site. I mean, for a lot of news sites we have less of this, and there's more actual, you know, keywords kind of thing. So for a news site, for example, KPCC, which is one of the class sites we use in my class, we're looking at what's called branded versus unbranded keywords. So are people coming to USC because they're saying KPCC or Alex Cohen or Larry Mantle or any of the radio shows or whatever, or are they coming in because they're coming in for LA topics, kind of thing. So in other words, what topics does KPCC want to be known for? You know, what topics have they just have a big emphasis on immigration, LA immigration kind of thing. So are they getting the visits from people typing in LA immigration kind of thing? So again, in analytics, again, you're looking at not only what's there, but what's not there that should be there based on your own internal actions kind of thing. So analyzing search terms and then analyzing landing pages, so I'll get to that. So landing pages, and I think I might be stuck. When in doubt, get back in, right? So if you go into behavior and you go into site content and you go into landing pages, then you will see, oh, look, in the last month, the top landing page was this story about race and ethnicity. And you can click on here and you can see it right there in Google Analytics what story it is. And then you can compare then that 4,549 sessions came in to that story, that content about race and ethnicity. That's 20% of the sessions from any source came in and landed on this article page. Okay. 85% was bounced. But we can put in our US sessions segment here and get that number, I think. New users, 3,876, which is 85. Oh, sorry. Bounce rate is 82. Percent new sessions is 85. Pages per session 1.74. Now what's interesting, this is the home page. There's a little slash here. So yeah, so when people came in and landed on the home page, 6.83 pages per session. So that's another clue. It's like, okay, maybe the home page isn't as bad as I thought, kind of thing. But when people are coming in on article pages, they're not sticking. What does that mean? Don't know. Need more investigation, right? Need to dig more, need to analyze more, need to get more segments. And yes, need to maybe do a survey, or maybe bring in a focus group kind of thing. So not everything can be gotten from web analytics. If you have a question about why, or what do you need, or what did you feel, did you like it? These are not questions that cannot be answered by any type of tool. There is still the need for attitudinal research, for old-fashioned surveys, for old-fashioned just talking to people to understand what's really going on here. So what I would do if I were Pacific Trope, I would really understand what pages people are going to, why they're not staying on certain ones, and then I'd bring in a focus group of high school teachers, and I'd ask them. I'd bring in teachers who had both used the site, as well as teachers who haven't used the site but should be. And I would sit them down and say, show them the site and whatever, and that would, and then try stuff based on that and see if the numbers move. You know, so this, at the very least, this type of research gives you the information to really know what questions to ask that are really going to make a difference in the success, you know, of your site. So what else is interesting? Anyone else see anything interesting here? Gender kind of thing. So again, just like with the keywords, you can classify then all of these landing pages and really understand which one is most important. So the bounce rate. So actually, look, the bounce rate is only, for the home page, is only 29%. Cool. So guess what? That 80% bounce rate, the home page is not the problem. It's the article pages. Because you have to think that anybody coming to the site, it's a pretty targeted site. It's not a generic news site. So if you come to the site, you're looking for something like sex power kind of thing. There is a lot about, you know, sexual identity, orientation, how do you teach that kind of thing. So yeah, so this gives sort of clear directions that let's really look at those internal pages, look at the section fronts. It's really understanding what's causing that home page. This gives very targeted direction because, you know, everyone thinks about the home page, spends a lot of time on the home page, whatever, but this clearly shows the home page is not, the home page is working just fine. Someone had a question? Yeah.
This reminds me of a lot of like blog posts. They will have hyperlink for some keywords in their article, so that may lead to, you know, another session. So maybe because all these article page, they only like plain words without any hyperlink, that can lead to other pages. Maybe that's why the bounce rate is so high. Or you don't have like multimedia content like videos, all that like more attractive content. Maybe just like a article without any keyword with hyperlink.
Well, you have to stay focused on the content. So it's not the format of the content that makes a difference. So it drives me nuts when I go to a news site and I read a story, say, about immigration, and I click on the video about immigration of that story. And that video finishes, and then it sends me another video, but it's not about immigration. I mean, think about it. Just sort of like, do you like videos on a website? Videos about what kind of thing? So it's always going to be the content that matters, not the format. You know, and so if the content is suitable for video or for a poll or what have you, great. If it's not, don't just shove video just because there. Don't. Data visualizations drives me nuts. Oh, let's put everything in a map. Some things don't belong in a map. You know, some things need to be written out. What is storytelling? Storytelling is a complex set of things based on the actual story. So that's what you are all learning, is all these different ways you can tell a story, but there's no one way it's going to depend on the story, I think. So don't focus on much on the platform, focus on data like this. Where are people going to? Where are they bouncing? You can have hypotheses. This would be an incredible place where there should be a video. So let's try that. Let's try a video, see what happens. And then of course with a video, you can track how many times people click play on that video. And you can track how many seconds they watch and whether or not they reach the end of that video. Kind of thing. So another horrible thing that sites do to their audiences is the video autoplay. Click on the page, the video starts playing, you're in class, you've been caught. Guess what? Someone's saying, guess how many video plays we had? That's taking a good metric and using it for bad. You're kidding yourself. You know, the person did not take that actual action and click on play. They were shoved it. Yeah.
So if I have a bad bounce rate, does that affect my SEO with Google or any one of these metrics or something? Is there something that Google looks at that then determines my performance?
Google's algorithm now is
very elaborate.
so black box. I understand that there's no one person at Google who actually understands it all, right? You used to be able to understand that and work to it, but frankly, SEO in itself is like a whole specialty, not mine. And part of it is because search is so complicated now. But yeah, things like Google wants to send people to good sites. You know, what are the complex metrics that fall into what a good site is? Absolutely, bounce rate's got to be one of them. Because there's a lot of clickbait out there. Oh, let's just shove people into the site. And yeah, if you have a high bounce rate of that, then that's going to be calculating in Google's calculations kind of things. Just huge unknown how the actual Google algorithm works. And guess what? It doesn't matter how it works because they have the real metric of success for Google search are things like how many people are using the search engine, how many seconds it takes for them to get a search result, how many times they're clicking on an ad. In other words, who cares how it works as long as it does? What's frustrating to SEO professionals is that, yeah, they need to know really as much as they can about this so that they can try to influence that kind of thing. And it's a whole specialty in themselves. So you can specialize there are specialties within specialties in web analytics. So I'm not an SEO person. The whole topic scares me to death because it's so complex kind of thing. It's taking me a lot just to sort of like understand the basics of the web kind of thing. Social media metrics, a whole other different type of specialty, as well as maybe some of you have taken in your public relations classes. Whole different ball of wax kind of thing. Think about Facebook. Think about all the different things you can do in Facebook that you cannot do with a website. And then you think about then also how many times Facebook changes their features. And every one of those features has a metric associated with it. And these features are things that no one's ever been done before. So guess what? If you're a web analytics analyst, you've got to understand that. So there's some comfort in knowing that I will never master this, kind of thing. So I'm just going to sort of like know what I know, and it's sort of freeing to know that I can't possibly know everything, kind of thing. So I sort of like that. Then I don't have to be stressed out. I'm never going to be caught up. Yeah.
Just a quick question because I don't have a lot of background knowledge in analytics. So I just Googled how to define the definition of session, and it kind of shows me two big ways to define it. And I don't know if Google's using both timely, measuring the time way or campaign way. Are they using both?
Yes. Yeah. So a session, if you just come to a site, and I know you've all done this, you go to a site, you get up, you go get something to eat, you leave it open. After 30 minutes, Google Analytics says you are done. We are ending this session, kind of thing. So the 30 minutes is sort of the industry standard. If at your organization you can set it for longer or shorter, kind of thing. Another reason why there are no standardized metrics, kind of thing. So Medium and some of the other types of people who are really really, really working with web analytics, whatever, they say, well, their content is such that they have shortened the number of sessions, the time they say is a session, I think. So in other words, the way that it works is that if you come to a site, you walk away for 29 minutes, and you come back, that's still one session, I think. If you go to a site at 1 o'clock, you walk away, and you come back at 1:35, that's session number 2 for you, I think. So you may think you're in the same session because it's the same hour. You just got distracted and you just come back to kind of thing. But Google Analytics will count as 2 sessions. And then if you're going through a Google AdWords campaign, then yeah, because they want to sell advertising based on AdWords kind of thing, they're counting that as a session that came in through an AdWords kind of thing. So another reason why, depending on what provider you're using for your web analytics, you have to really know your provider, have to really understand what system you have and how they're counting things. They will be similar, but you're never mixing the numbers. So you don't mix Adobe Omniture numbers with Google Analytics numbers. Not without a big asterisk that's saying, we use a different source, for this. Because they will be different. So if you've heard of ComScore, all the publishers are like screaming at ComScore. Because who knows how they do their numbers. They're basically, they're like Nielsen. They just take a bunch of stuff, they stir it up and say, these are your numbers. And they bear no resemblance whatsoever to what the actual publishers are producing. So there's always going to be that sort of natural fight when you're using different sources. Unfortunately, ComScore are the numbers that a lot of advertisers use. It's like, what do you do? What do you do? If you're a publisher, you make sure you know your stuff, and so that you can tell your own story with your own data, and so that you're not dependent on this third-party vendor who's coming with their own formulas and making their own sort of story that you don't have any control over. So yeah.
So to go off of that, one example would be that the third-party vendor would say, "Oh, we have a lot of number of sessions because they've reduced the amount of time between."
Yeah. Right.
And if they're trying to get advertisers to buy advertising space on their website, then it can be sort of deceiving because they don't know that the only like a 5-minute time span of a login.
Yeah. So that's why I belong to the Digital Analytics Association, and we have rules of ethics kind of thing for things like this. And also, the advertisers have a very powerful tool, and that is click-through rate, which is the most important to them. So you may make that initial decision based on number of sessions. You can tell what it's what you want, but if that advertiser is not getting the results that they want, then who cares how many sessions the organization is saying. So another reason why it's like the beauty and the power of analytics is that, yeah, you can mess with them, but you're probably going to be found out. So just stick to what your mission is. This is my audience. This is my strategy. This is the unique content that's going to draw on those audiences. These are the outcomes that we're going to deliver. These are the outcomes the advertisers are looking for. This is the audience that we're delivering to you, I think. So it's not based on demographics. I mean, you've seen a little bit of the power of the behavioral information here. So if you're ESPN, what does it matter whether you're a man or a woman or how old you are, whatever? If you're going to play fantasy baseball, that's all that matters. You've actually gone to the ESPN fantasy baseball site, you've put down your money or whatever. Demographics have no place here in web analytics because the power of behavioral information for the outcomes that people want is what matters. What do advertisers want? What do schools want? What does Professor Trope want? Focusing in on what exactly the outcome is and focusing on the audience that you want will give you the framework for how you decide what metrics to look at and which ones to say. There's all these kind of metrics. It's like, that's what makes it overwhelming. But if you know the questions that you want to ask, then it's very easy just to sort of get into the data and get the answers, just like that. All right, so we're about at time, about 10 minutes left. Any other sort of questions, thoughts? As you can imagine, I can talk for hours about any of these things in analytics. Yeah.
What's different about the paid version?
You can't see it from this version, but it gives you things like unsampled data. So right now, for the biggest sites, it actually samples the data because it's a free service. So you can imagine like a KPCC actually, just hundreds and hundreds of thousands of sessions, every day, the way that Google Analytics is actually calculating this is based on sampling. So the paid version will give you unsampled data, and which is what you need if you really want to get into the long tail of sessions. What's happening on that small end kind of thing, which is really important, of course, for smaller sites. Really understand. It's not always the question about what's the most popular thing. Sometimes the question is, was there something down in the little stuff kind of thing. And sometimes you do need to have unsampled data. That's one of the main things. Is it costs like $250,000 a year, so you better have other reasons why, kind of thing. So, yeah.
I had a question about how the system codes them into channels. Are there any discrepancies between internet browsers? Like, for example, if I type in, or I tend to type in something I want to look up through the Google Chrome browser, and it has like a history of maybe I've been to that site already, versus say I go to Firefox, maybe the same thing, I guess.
Well, you would be two unique users, and so is your question like it would give you a different result?
Yeah, I just want to know if there were any like differences in how it coded, depending on the actual internet browser.
No, it's really the purpose of the browser is to get your cookie.
Okay.
Right? And how that browser delivers the site. It used to be, I think all of you are too young to remember when there was only like 2 browsers in the world. And you really had to have different sites for different browsers. Now the technology is such that most browsers would deliver the site in exactly the same way.
Okay.
So, but back in the old days, 10 years ago, then it would have made a difference. Yeah, I mean, at the very beginning, there was no e-commerce on Safari. Is that horrible? It's like, come on, get your act together. Do you want to sell stuff or not? I mean, to me, that you don't want to cut anybody out. But the other thing that really burns me is when people do apps only for iPhone. You know what? Not everybody has an iPhone. In fact, if you look at the numbers, there's as many as even more who are Android. So just because most of you are using Mac and most of you have iPhones, again, who's your target audience? Look at your numbers. If I'm a business, I don't want to turn anybody away. So web apps are very expensive to do. If you can't afford to do at least iPhone and Android, then don't do one. Just have a mobile responsive site. Everybody, no matter what kind of phone they have, can access, a mobile responsive site. So why are you cutting out? So if you need to invest in an app, remember apps? Apps are only for people who know who you are and want to come to you over and over again in a more efficient way. It is not, an app is not for a new user, to attract new users. And so this is where resource allocation comes in. If you only have so much money to invest in your site, and you can't continuously invest the resources to keep up a number of different apps, then don't even bother. Don't even have one. Because, again, look at the metrics of your app too. One of the common metrics is, the number of times the app was downloaded. How many apps do you have on your phone? You don't even know. Yeah, you don't even know. How many do you use?
Like 5.
5. Yeah. So talk about another stupid metric, right? Number of downloaded apps. Whoop-de-doo. So you just follow that little trail. How many times did someone download it? How much times did actually someone open it? Did they go back? What did they do when they were in the app? The same thing, but it just costs a lot of money, frankly, to develop an app. So bigger companies, yes. If you're a smaller company, invest in your site. Invest in a mobile responsive site that's accessible from all platforms, no matter what they are, and really pay attention to these basic metrics that are really talk about the audiences you want and the outcomes that you really want. So I think it actually makes analytics easier to limit yourself like that, as opposed to saying, oh my gosh, you've got to understand all this. It's like, no, you just have to understand sort of different pieces of it. And you ignore all, the rest. So I've got a 15-week class in this kind of thing. We go deep into something like 10 different websites. We've got KPCC, Texas Tribune, a bunch of news sites, some nonprofits like Liberty Hill, what have you, kind of thing, and we're really getting to search keyword analysis and all kinds of fun stuff, kind of thing. So it's a 2-unit class. It's in the fall and the spring, kind of thing. So if you need information, just let me know. Okay. Thank you.